Hey guys, Ivan here, and in today's video we got a couple of very interesting bodybuilding updates, but we're gonna start with a physique update of Chris Bumstead at a couple of days before his open debut at Prague Pro. So let's take a look at his physique. Is he looking bigger, like an open bodybuilder? Well, to me, I kinda hoped he was gonna show up a lot bigger. Like, I thought he was gonna just go for a crazy amount of fullness with something like Samson Dauda conditioning, but that's not happening. We are not gonna see some new, crazy, monstrous looking Chris Bumstead. We're gonna see basically a very similar Chris Bumstead, very similar to what he was in classic physique, just a little bit more fresh, a little bit more full, without sacrificing any muscle, basically around 6, maybe 8 pounds heavier, so nothing drastic, nothing dramatic. In this video right here, does he look bigger and fuller? Well, he looks like he usually looks a couple of weeks before the Mr. Olympia, and then for the Mr. Olympia he diets down a little bit more, and apparently he loses some muscle, so he is now going to show up basically the way he would show up if he didn't do those final 2 or 3 weeks where he was making weight. So again, is he looking bigger? I think he is slightly fuller, but again, nothing drastic, nothing dramatic. Now, this video, I think this is in his home gym in US, and here he obviously has to be depleted, flat. And here is a video of Chris Bumstead in Prague, in some old school freaking gym. I think they chose this gym to look like they're in freaking Soviet Union. There are modern and really good gyms in Prague, guys, but I guess they chose this one to make it look more, I don't know, more Slavic, more old school. And I'm sure Chris enjoyed this old school equipment for a change. This is also very good equipment as well, but it's just very old. And, you know, the vibe that we're getting is like really Czech Republic vibe, but again, there are better gyms in Prague. Anyways, here you can see what Chris looks like a little bit more carved up. So today is Thursday. I'm sure he started carving up slowly. Again, he's doing the open, so he doesn't have to make the weight 1 day or 2 days before the show and then carb up in the last moment when he's already super flat and he can't really do much. This time around, he can carb up slowly over a couple of days. And I think in this video, he does look a little bit fuller. I think his body is starting to look a little bit more alive. But we still have to wait and see the final package in 2 days from now. So Saturday is going to be the pre-judging. Prague Pro is actually a 2-day show, so the finals are on Sunday. And since it's Hunter Abbott who is prepping Chris for this, he's probably going to be even better at the finals than at the pre-judging. But, right here in this video, he does look pretty good. Good enough to win? Anything is possible. In my predictions so far, I actually did have Chris winning, but since I realized that he's not gonna be dramatically bigger than in classic physique, I'm not so sure anymore. Him a little bit bigger, a little bit fuller with the same conditioning, same everything, it's gonna be better than classic physique, but to win against a top 4 Olympian in the open, I don't know about that. So they're definitely playing it safe. They're trying to bring Chris in his usual shape, in his usual conditioning, as lean as possible, as separated as possible, just simply a little bit more fresh, a little bit more full looking. And, I think it's going to be awesome to see him like that. It's probably going to be Chris's best ever of all time, and I do think he's probably going to be in that top 2. Against Sean Clarida, Horse MD, Andrea Presti, he can probably beat those guys. We don't know that either. He can place, as low as 6th, but with those 6 to 8 pounds more, with a little bit fuller and fresher look, with his posing, his presentation, his charisma and aura on stage, with the audience on his side as well, and probably with the incentive of having him in the open next year, the IFBB is probably going to be leaning towards him a little bit more. Maybe he has a shot. But again, we're not going to see something insane. You guys, I already talked about this many times, and I don't know how many of you understand this, but if they wanted to, Chris could have showed up at 270 or even more than that. If they wanted to bring him in let's say, maybe not Samson Dawada, but like Derek Lunsford conditioning. If that was their goal, Chris could have been much bigger. But no, I guess the plan is to bring him as conditioned, as always, just a little bit fresher and fuller. And I'm curious, what do you guys think at this point? What do you think? Can Chris actually win or place top 2 or whatever you guys think? Tell me down below what your prediction for Chris Bumstead is for Prague Pro this year. Alright, next up, we got, let's say, Chris's biggest opponent at this show, Martin Fitzwater, with a physique update as well. And let's take a look at this. So basically, conditioning-wise, does he compare to Chris Bumstead? I mean, I would say yeah. I would say he's basically almost just as lean. But, you know, with the fullness, with the size, the separation is simply not as deep as Chris's. But that's what happens when you are so thick, so dense. So that's open bodybuilding, guys. Like, those guys will never be as ripped, as detailed, as dry as the smaller guys, the classic guys. But do they need to be in open division? No, not really. What they do need is to have a controllable midsection. These days, the waist actually needs to be small. Like back in the day, a couple of years, maybe like 10 years ago or even more, like that wasn't a thing. Nobody cared about the guts. These days, open bodybuilders are punished heavily for having horrible midsections. So that's something you gotta have in classic, of course, and in open now. And Martin has that as well. Like, his midsection is small. He can even pull a good vacuum, like his waist can get really small. So it's not like Chris is gonna have a much smaller waist. Sure, it's gonna be a smaller waist and it's gonna look more dramatic because of Chris's lats and the way his quads are shaped, especially vastus lateralis. So I'm pretty sure Chris's V-taper or X frame is gonna be more dramatic, but Martin is not really lacking that department either, and he's just overall bigger. Maybe a little bit, I wouldn't even say less conditioned, but like maybe a little bit less detailed, and that's about it. But yeah, Martin is definitely taking this one seriously. He is gonna be spot on, and if he is close to what he was at a Mr. Olympia, if he isn't completely off, yeah, he is definitely the favorite to win this thing. It's a possibility that Chris might, I don't know, somehow edge him out, but I was really hoping he was going to be much bigger. You know, at this weight, Chris versus Martin, it's probably not going to happen. Like, it's probably not going to be Chris who wins this, but I don't know. Let's wait and see how will that look like on stage. Chris is a lot taller. Again, he's going to take more space on that stage, but, you know, back thickness, side thickness, that's all Martin, guys, and just overall density and fullness of the muscle. And this is open bodybuilding after all, but we'll see in 2 days from now. It's a real shame that we won't get to see Akim Williams next to Chris Bumstead. You guys saw the Prague Pro list, but if Akim was in this show, I'm pretty sure he would be in that top 3. I mean, Horse MD failed to beat him at Romania. Sean Clarida, I mean, he's a little bit too small for Akim. Even though Akim doesn't have the back, I think he would probably still edge Sean out. And I think it will be between Akim and Chris Bumstead for that second spot. And Akim is basically like a bodybuilder's bodybuilder, you know, in terms of his looks. You know, he has that height that he has a bunch of muscle, a lot of freaky body parts, massive arms, massive chest, massive legs, comes in very good condition. But maybe he would lose some ground in the back shots. However, it would be very interesting to see him compared to Chris because, you know, Martin is also very aesthetic, but Akim is just a mass monster. And if we saw that comparison, you know, a classic guy, perfectly looking aesthetic guy against a freak, that would be really interesting. But Akim just announced that he is doing the show in Spain, which is 2 weeks after the Prague Pro, and yeah, I see why he would do that, because he will probably win that show. He'll probably win and qualify for the Mr. Olympia. He didn't want to waste energy on doing Prague Pro, but again, there are 2 weeks between the Prague Pro and Spain show, so if he did the Prague Pro, he would still have enough time to refresh his body to actually peak again for Spain Pro and probably win. But as you guys can see right here, I asked the question, does he just not care about marketing? I mean, if he stood next to Chris Bumstead at this stage, like, everybody would be talking about that. That would probably be the main comparison. And like all the other, a little bit more mainstream fitness media would be talking about this comparison, and Akim would become a little bit more known. But, you know, he's the kind of guy that just stays silent. He doesn't do a lot of podcasts. He doesn't do a lot of appearances. He's just doing his own thing and competing, and that's about it. Maybe he has a super successful business on the side that we don't know about, so he doesn't care about making money from bodybuilding. If that's the case, then fine, I get it, but if it's not, then he's making a huge mistake. But it's over now anyways. He had to sign up by Sunday, I believe, so we're not gonna see this comparison, Akim versus Chris Bumstead. Take a look at Akim's arms, man. I mean, yeah, I know it's the angle, but still, like, those arms and overall the size that he has with conditioning from the front and from the sides. Man, I wish I saw this on stage, but yeah, unfortunately it's not happening. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you wanna see more content and a coverage of the Prague Pro, stay on this channel, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. All the best, and bye-bye.